Okay, so hello everybody, and thanks very much for coming along today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening from. I can see some people filtering into the room at the moment. It's brilliant to see so many of you here. One quick game that we'd like to play just to start off. It's good for us because it means we can check the tech, but it also means we get to know you a little bit better as well. Could you, in the chat box or the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, write down where it is in the world that you're listening from today? And that should give us a good idea about how international a group this is. It should be on the right-hand side. You should be able to type in where you're from. I'm going to type in Berlin because that's where we are. And hello from Vancouver, fantastic, very, very international. Is there anybody else from around the world who'd like to show off? From Bonn, another German, very cool. Brilliant, okay, so that sounds like everybody can hear us. That is brilliant. So thanks very much for joining us today and for this webinar about the one-year MBA program at ESMT and the ways that career services support our students with their professional growth. Joining me today are Marcel Kalis, the head of career services at ESMT, and Nadia Zghoul, who is currently studying the one-year MBA with us. Welcome both. Now, before we get going, just an overview of what we will cover today. I will start with a brief introduction of the MBA program at ESMT, before Marcel will give us an overview of career services and the team and what they do. And then we will move on to a Q&A where you will get your opportunity to put your questions to both Nadia and Marcel. First off, the one-year MBA program. It's a full-time intensive MBA taught here in Berlin, designed for those with a minimum of 3 years work experience, although usually a bit more, who are looking to gain business skills in order to change their career. Now, many people will want to change either their industry, their role, or their location. Most people will change two, and some superstars will change all three. The curriculum is designed to build on existing skills, which focuses on leadership and management. But there are also 3 tracks with which you can specialize your education. Managerial analytics is not just for people who want to be analysts, but is obviously much more data focused. There is a degree of technical skills involved so that you can still manipulate data, but it's very much based on helping you make data-driven decisions. Innovation and entrepreneurship, again, is not just for those who want to start their own businesses, although we do get around 4 or 5 every year who do, but it's for people who enjoy working in that startup environment. So very, very fast-paced, very flexible, dealing with businesses that are growing very, very quickly. And the final track is strategic leadership, which is more of our traditional MBA track. So it focuses more strongly on leadership skills, management skills, consulting, and growing an already existing business. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is the class profile. Now, we have a very, very international group of students here at ESMT, and the classes themselves are quite small, and this is done by design. We keep classes to around 50 students. What that means is that you get a much more personalized education and you get much more one-on-one time with your faculty members. It's also, I suppose, easier for us to maintain a higher standard because we get to know our students much more, and so we know where your strengths and your weaknesses are and where people are likely to struggle and where people are likely to succeed. Now, we always tell students not to look too closely at rankings when picking a business school. There are a million reasons why a school is right for you or wrong for you, but as a rough guide, as a rule of thumb, it's good to know that the school that you're applying for is highly regarded amongst these ranking institutions, and we're obviously very proud of our rankings, and there's a selection of some here. One thing I should point out as well is that we have a accreditation by the 3 main global accreditation bodies, so EQUIS, AACSB, and AMBA, and we are one of only 90 schools in the world to have this triple accreditation. And what that means is your degree, wherever you end up in the world, will be recognized. The application journey is relatively straightforward. We obviously are coming to the end of our application openings for this year because the class begins in January. We operate on a rolling basis, so once you have submitted your application, usually around a week before, we will invite you to a personal interview, and then around a week before, the admissions committee will meet and decide whether to accept or reject you from the program. Applications are technically open for our January 2020 start, but as you can probably understand, we are getting towards the end of the year. And so what that means is the final application deadline is on Monday, December 2nd. So for anybody who's listening today who is interested in starting in January, that is very much the last possible moment you have to apply. For some people from certain countries, it's already too late just because visas is very difficult for certain nationalities, but for especially EU students and for students from around 10 other select countries, applications are still open. If you'd like to know exactly what those are, then there's a full list on our website. Now, that's enough from me, and I would like to now hand over to Marcel, who will talk us through a little bit more about what career services do.
So, hello everyone. Nice to meet you via camera. I'm sitting with Nadia here, and Nadia is currently in our full-time MBA, not executive MBA, but full-time MBA. So maybe, would you like to briefly introduce yourself quickly?
Okay, so I'm actually still currently a student. I'm working on our final consulting project right now. I come from the pharmaceutical and clinical research world, and I decided to do an MBA to bridge to a new industry.
And my name is Marcel, as you already know, and I work at ESMT quite a while already, and I'm running the Career Services Center. Career Services is a team of 4 people. Besides the MBA students, we also work with master students and executive students. So we have split up the responsibilities a little bit. My main focus is on MBA, and we do a couple of things. But first, you could say that we have a job which works actually 2 ways. We have an outgoing role, supporting role to students. You can say that we spend 50% of our time with students, and the other 50% of our time we spend on, we call it corporate relations. So basically we do a sort of business development with companies, with organizations who would like to work with us, who would like to recruit our students. And that goes from projects to internships for our MIMs, to full-time positions for MBA students, and basically getting companies on board who would like to come on campus, or we go to them for recruitment purposes. And there are actually many of them. To give you a little bit of a glimpse, is that Career Services, we are a fixed part of the curriculum. So we do have time on a regular basis where we come into class to give workshops. You can see them here on the screen. It goes from very obvious things like CV and cover letter writing, how to prepare for interviews, personal branding. We have a workshop which is focused on storytelling. Plus we have a big number of workshops which is focusing on, let's say, the practical part, where you can basically put in practice what you learn, like mock interviews, case interviews, and another big part I should not forget is that we give a lot of individual guidance. The size of the class allows us to basically know everyone, but also to have an open door policy and a very personal, I would say, almost service towards the students. Another thing to mention is that we connect each and every single MBA student with a career coach. So we work with external certified coaches, and we offer each student over the whole year 5 coaching sessions, mostly in the weekend, because during the week there is hardly any time in the curriculum. So that happens on Saturdays and Sundays, where the students are able to connect with a professional coach in a private setting, and basically design the agenda by themselves. But mostly it is focused on creating a career development plan, so talking about the next steps to take to successfully end up in a job after graduation. You see also some fancy numbers on this slide we like to show off, of course. You can see the average salary. You can see that a lot of our graduates, they manage to stay in Germany after graduation, which is a good thing. Because Germany is a perfect country not only to study, but also to find a job. And the regulation around it allows every student from outside the EU, you can stay after graduation for 18 months. Doesn't matter where you come from, you can stay 18 months. You can look for jobs, and you can even start working within those 18 months. And then overall in the time apply for a work permit, which I don't know anyone who was rejected once, so everyone will get this. I also must say that our graduates go in quite diverse directions. We are not a school where, you know, half of the students go into consultant and the other half goes into finance. We have definitely people going into this direction, but it's extremely mixed. We have people going into corporate, we have people starting their own business, and most of all, because Berlin is in the end also startup mecca, we have quite substantial number of students joining the startup scene in Berlin, and I can say that we are pretty well connected with them. Yeah, maybe because we thought it would be nice to have the life experience joining us, because I can have this very fancy talk. But Nadia, for example, with many other students, basically she's in the program, so she knows by experience how that works. But maybe Nadia, could you tell why you choose to do an MBA and why ESMT?
Okay, why I chose an MBA is because after many years in academic research, I wanted to learn the tools to not only manage a project, but also to learn interpersonal skills and what is important in leading teams, and what is important in organizational development. And I had very little, if not at all, a finance background, and I also wanted to get the economic and finance background, of course, and also take a year to reflect and to really think what you want to do next, and what career you want to spend the next stage in your life in. So yeah, that was my main motivation for an MBA. Mm-hmm. And why ESMT? For me, it was the bifocus actually on both technology, innovation, but also the sustainability. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't sure where I want to go, and our program was a very general MBA program, and that just gave me the opportunity to get a glimpse into many areas and then decide, okay, I want to go into this area at the end of the year.
Yeah. So I mentioned the career coaching, for example. You are also connected to one of our career coaches. Could you describe a little bit what happens there during those sessions and what people can expect?
Yeah, so it's like you said, it's a private setting, so it happens between the coach and myself, and it actually is very nice because it happens at various stages. And I just had my last session last weekend, and I'm pretty sad about it. But you could really see that the coach gets to know you and reminds you of who you are and where you were last time you met, because the meetings happened in this time it was 2 months, I think, interval. And she, my coach was a she literally gives you time to discuss the current action in your application status, for instance. So for me, I had a running application, and she knew about it. She knew about how I applied, and now I'm considering an offer, and then yeah, she coaches you on what to consider and reminds you of what is important for you because she already knows you. So it's very nice because I mean, it's very helpful to take a decision and you literally feel how you grow. So the first coaching session might be a little bit awkward because you're talking and opening up to a stranger, but then actually after 4 sessions, you become very close, and you value the understanding that the other person actually has for you.
Did the coach ever tell you what to do?
No. No. Not ever. No. But we talked about how to approach certain things, and the main thing was a reminder of who I am and what is important for me in choosing a career.
Mm-hmm. And did the coach help with your job search for employment after your graduation?
No, that was done by Career Services.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
in helping for the search, no, it was more of situational advice, as guidance as to how to approach certain things. So you might be shy in networking, for instance, and then you might have questions, how do I approach a complete stranger I've never met before?
Yeah.
But then you talk about it, and
Okay.
things like that. But no,
cool.
actually.
Well, sorry to interrupt. You mentioned that it was Career Services that were the biggest help when it came to your job search. Marcel, I know you've been quite busy at the moment. Could you maybe talk us through some of the activities that Career Services?
No, sure. So what I said, one of our main roles is that we reach out to companies and that we get companies involved. Today I just had lunch with one of the biggest e-commerce companies here in Berlin. The name is Zalando. We are friends, we are partners, and Zalando is at the moment our biggest recruiter. So we give companies during the year a couple of opportunities to come here. We have a career fair. I must admit, it's a combined career fair for all the students, and we organize that early February, which is absolutely early in the MBA program. We totally recognize that and we admit that, but it's on the other hand a great starting networking opportunity. Some people also come back the year after to join the second career fair, and that's we put a lot of emphasis on starting and building up a network, which is sometimes for people pretty awkward because you are walking around and forced to talk with someone you don't know, and you basically don't know what to ask, and you basically don't know if there is a future career for you, but it's a starting point. But then we offer companies to come here again twice, once in September, actually yesterday, in November, where we invite companies to come here, not in the setting of a career fair, but by giving companies private study room to have individual meetings with students. So you sit down, you meet each other, and that's a different way of networking. So it could be the first starting point you have with a company, with a potential recruiter. It could be your dream company, or it could be a company you've never heard of, and you did some research and you think, hey, sounds nice, interesting, I want to learn more. So preparation is key, in whatever situation you end up with. But basically we give those companies and the students a 30 to 45 minutes chance to interview, and it leads often to next steps, to follow-up conversations where people are invited, to come to the company for the real interview, or there are some maybe virtual events where you have interviews with the recruiters or even the hiring managers. So it's totally based on having access to those recruiters and see if there are opportunities for those companies as well.
I would just like to say as well that we are more than happy to open up the floor to questions from yourselves. So if you're listening in and you have a question for either of these two, then please feel free to add them into the questions box as you were doing with your nationalities here. Oh, sorry.
Can we simply continue? We can continue talking, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Whilst a few of these come through.
No, because I would like to touch base on the networking part, which sounds maybe to many people a bigger cliche than ever. But on the other hand, it's super important in Germany. Germany is people getting jobs in the end. It's very much networking based, and sometimes even getting referrals. I forgot one big part in my when I started talking what we work with. There is another big group of people who we should not forget and we work with. Those are our alumni, working maybe at companies where people would like to end up with. And normally those alumni are very much willing to share, yeah, let's say first networking opportunities, and if you then get to know each other, and again, preparation is super key, but if you get to know each other, there might be an opportunity that one of these alumni can refer your candidacy to their, you know, colleagues or hiring managers or even HR colleagues. So my question because we were standing there last year, or this year, early in the program, telling Nadia and the other students, start your networking, and we gave some tips and tricks how to do that. But how did you do that? Could you shine a light on your experience?
Well, you mentioned it, alumni. So when you had when the Career Services Office emailed us about the career fair in February, like you said, it was extremely early for us, and we were like, oh, we're not looking for jobs. But then again, you look at the companies that are visiting, and you study who is there, and it's easier to actually talk to the alumni who also might be present at the career fair, because you have something in common. You went to the same school, and they know where you are and why you're talking to them. So. But I also dared to speak to somebody who is not an alumni, and then it's like you said, you get to know them. So a company that I was interested in because of my background, I spoke to, and then the conversation went nice, and then you see them again. So we had Digital Future Summit in June, organized by our MIM students, and then you saw them again, so it was easy to touch base. And if you happen to see them for a third time, it's emphasized further. And then if you want to apply for a position perhaps on their company website, you might connect via LinkedIn, which I would always do prior to the application. After you meet them, send a polite message, so we're on LinkedIn. And yeah, but the alumni, for me personally, played a main part. And in the beginning, it's strange to ask them for time because they're all in their jobs and they're super busy, but they're willing to help. And this is what we want to give also forward, that we are now at a stage, yes, we are looking for jobs. Some of us already have jobs and some of us are looking, but also we want to be there for the ones that follow. And it's only natural. So I'm having tomorrow lunch with one of our executive MBA alumni.
Really?
Yeah. So because I'm looking for, I want to talk to them about the positions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really
I also know that you were in touch with a couple of companies, and that one of the companies has an interest in you.
Yeah, yeah, and that just happened really, really by surprise, because we had our interview day in September, and the company selected some of our profiles, and they interviewed some of us. And after talking to them, I got to know a company that I've never heard of before. I got considered for a position I actually never thought of before. And now I was lucky to receive an offer a couple of days ago. And yeah, I'm very happy actually. I'm seriously considering it. And I'm very, yeah.
So that is a way to mention that, yeah, we are running to the end of the program, not this webinar, but the MBA program, that some people, you end up in a situation where you have to consider options, and which are, yeah, sometimes totally life-changing, and also sometimes connecting to very well to what you want to do in the future. So that is also, you know, some moments where you really have to reflect and think about. But I would say that in your case, we met a lot. We spoke about it. You spoke about it with your coach. You obviously speak with your friends and your network and the people in the class to come to a well thought conclusion.
Yeah.
And maybe signing in the end a contract.
Yeah, it certainly was an open dialogue with mainly career services and some of my colleagues, yes, who are also considering working in that area, absolutely.
If there are no questions, I simply continue.
We have had a few that have come through, but I mean, if you guys are happy to.
No, because maybe I can also, I guess there will be some questions also mentioning, you know, what is it like to find a job in Germany? How easy is that, maybe? And the other question is, do you need to speak German?
Absolutely. That was the first question we've had here through from Gabriel. Yes.
Yeah. There is, it's both. So, first of all, we are based in Berlin. Berlin is startup Mecca, and I can say that the language at all those startups is English. There are some exceptions, of course, but most of them, the language is English. There are some other maybe restrictions in other industry, but it's certainly, and that's also the message we like to convey, is that it adds on if you put an effort in learning the language. Certainly, if you want to live here for a couple of years and if you want to work here, I think that's also a little bit of a personal opinion that you should put some effort in learning the language. Then there are many companies where you will meet German colleagues, right? And even though then the language of the company might be English, if you go for the coffee machine and you meet 10 colleagues and you are the only foreigner, everyone will definitely speak German. And then you might end up in a situation where you feel a little bit behind. So my story is that we would encourage people to put an effort in learning it. We even give the option, yeah, for next year it's too late, but you could come earlier or stay longer on the program. Because we have a deal with a school where you can learn the language from, or you choose your own personal teacher. That is also what some people are really doing now, looking for jobs in this time of the year, plus learning the language. And again, I would say it adds on. If you want to work in certain fields like sales positions or strategy consulting, where your clients are, let's say, on the German countryside, you better be fluent to work in such positions. But we are always happy to give, let's say, personal advice to look at your, yeah, let's say your strategy, what kind of jobs you would like to achieve, and give you some advice about the language. So it's or and or if, but basically you could say that certainly Berlin is a supranational environment where the language is less an issue. If you want to work on the German countryside, you might want to look into your German skills.
Fantastic. We have another question here that's come through from Nadia, asking about the transition from an engineering background to a more sort of business-focused position. I can say that from a curriculum level, Nadia, it's very, very common that we get people on the course who have an engineering background, who have very technical skills, and are coming to us to broaden out their leadership and sort of broader business skills. But Marcel, are there any sort of industries that engineers tend to lean towards, or is it quite a broad mix of?
No, it's a super mix, but I also want to say that companies quite like business people with a technology background. But on the other hand, you also have to earn the years and the experience on the business side. And sometimes doing some courses might not be enough to start in a more senior position on the business side. Because well, first of all, you need to be credible and ready to do a job straight away from day one. So people look at resumes and they look at experience, and then they make the calculation. So it might even happen with people that you try to find a combination of both. Let's say using the technology and the business skills you have learned, or what you should do is maybe enter in a more junior business position, you know, to get quickly the start. We see that too, people entering that and then making a quicker move than other people in the, how do you call it, the hierarchy. You know, there are always options for people to be promoted relatively quick to more business-like positions. I hope that answered it. Do you have something smart to say about this, Nadia?
I think it's very common. No, I think you said it all. No, I mean it's very common. Actually, an MBA is rounding up a lot of studies.
Yeah, but connecting to this, there is, because one of the questions I always would have for Nadia is, what are you working for at the moment? And it also runs through career services. Part of the curriculum is that you have to do a consulting project for a client, for a company. Basically, you can form your own teams, you can go on the market and look for your own projects, or you can leave it up to us. It's always a combination. But in the end, you will also gain experience through those 6, 7, 8 weeks where you are working in a team as a consultant for a company. Could you say something what you are working on without revealing all the secrets?
So we're working on a social impact project. We're trying to help our client establish an NGO and provide a certain product to emerging market economies. And I'm doing that together with 2 colleagues of mine, and it's really enjoyable because the 3 of us come from different backgrounds, aviation, engineering, and medical. So it's really nice that we get together and merge our ideas together, and all of us are moving into other career choice afterwards. So we chose to do a social impact project.
Yeah, this is an example. So in the project, you see basically everything. People working for large corporations, people working for startups, the Berlin startup scene, quite a few, I would say, this year. And they're super cool. They're super cool projects, and it sometimes also happens that people end up in jobs because they could join the network of this consulting project company and end up in a working position over there. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've had another question come through here from Justine. This is quite an interesting one. Are there any disadvantages or advantages to studying in Germany if you are interested in working outside of Germany after graduation? Specifically in her instance, moving from the US to study, but then going back to the US to work.
Yeah, I mean, I simply have to say that our network in Germany is much bigger than in the United States. Let's face it. We cannot ignore that or lie about it, and I'm not going to do it. But we do have definitely a growing alumni community in the country. It's a super big country, of course, but we have people working spread out over the company, and that would be our connection. However, we do work with large, mostly American organizations. They even come here on campus, who are recruiting, mostly for the European or for the German market, but they might be able to connect you as well to the United States. But it's more limited, so to say.
Yeah. That's fair enough. One thing as well, Justine, I don't know where in the US you're based, but I know that the New York Alumni chapter are about to have quite a large event. So if you are somewhere near there, then make sure to check it out on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question from Jing here. So is there any seasonality to hiring in Germany? Are there certain industries that recruit more heavily at certain times of the year? Maybe for you, Nadia, when you first arrived, was there a sort of timeline to when you were aiming to apply for jobs, or was it just get here and see what happens?
No, so what we try to get across to our students is, since the program is 1 year, the starting date is in December. You should, we think, spend the first half of the year, maybe, or 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, trying to find out what you want to do and network like crazy. Get the connections. But you can do the calculation that if you need a job after graduation, which will be in February, if you want to start working in February or March after graduation, you can do the calculation back. You would need to start to apply in September, October. That is then the moment to recruit. Startups, our experience is that they have a job today and they want you to start tomorrow. So the cycle is extremely short. Consulting industry is they basically recruit on an ongoing process. And if you get the job and if you get a contract, they ask you a starting date, which I even heard from 1 year later after signing that happened in the past. But then you basically can start defining your starting date. Some larger, I would say, corporations in Germany, they have quite some long application processes. It can take up to 3 months before you even get an offer or not. So that's also extremely diverse. But our general message is start applying, let's say, after the summer break, August is maybe too early, but you know, September, October is really application season.
And is that what you found, Nadia? Was that your timeline?
Yeah, I started after our summer break.
Okay.
September.
That's also mostly when we have our company events. So we go to companies to visit them. We did that before the summer break. We went to Facebook, we went to HelloFresh, we went to Here Technologies, to Zalando, to Westwing. Knorr-Bremse, one of the huge, world famous in Germany, Mittelstand company.
We went to Zeiss.
Carl Zeiss. So, you know, we do those company visits to give students an opportunity to have a look inside, you know, and then, you know, raise interest maybe or not. But all our interview events are then mostly after the summer break.
Fantastic. So one more question. So you mentioned briefly earlier about the visas and how everybody is automatically given an 18-month visa to find work. Do you find that there is any discrimination against people with these kind of visas? Is it easier for EU citizens or any harder for people from outside the EU?
Never had this question before. No.
Okay. Well, no, that's fantastic. That's very good to hear. But
no, there are. I must say there are some companies, also bigger companies, but it's really an exception. They say you can only apply if you are eligible to work in the country where you are applying for. They basically say we're not going to help you with a work permit. It happens. I'm sorry, but I don't see any discrimination. I simply what I would say is you have to be simply the best candidate, and if you are the best candidate, companies will make an effort to get you in. And again, I can repeat it. If you are in Germany and you have this paper of 18 months where you can stay and work, it makes it a lot easier because you are the one. You as an employee are responsible for your work permit, not the company. You know, and in some countries it's the other way around.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is it's a super friendly, wonderful regulation.
No, it's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, especially with such an international group of students, it must be very helpful. Yeah. And have you found, Nadia? I know that you're very fortunate in that you have been offered a position. Have you found that many of your fellow students, are they in a similar position? Are they also being offered jobs at the moment, or are people leaving a bit later?
No, I want to be optimistic. Currently, actually, all of us are talking about potential positions we want to move into. Some of us have a choice, others are still actively applying. But I would say everybody is kind of okay where they are right now.
Yeah, you know, it's an exciting period. And of course, people compare themselves, I think, to other people, but it's also motivating. There is another option at ESMT, which I would like to highlight, is that we work with NGOs. And that we give students an opportunity to not start working straight away after the MBA, but to go into a responsible leader fellowship, meaning that, and ESMT, it's sponsored by ESMT, by the way, that if you are selected for an RLF, in short, Responsible Leader Fellowship, you go work for an NGO somewhere in the world where your help is needed. That could be, in the Latin America region, or in the African region, or in Asia. We have people from various locations. I would say it's a one-life opportunity where you will be able to do something good, sustainable for an organization, for people, or for the world, but also for yourself, because it's an experience that will never be taken away. But it means that you graduate, but then you don't start working for somewhere on the payroll, but you start working as a fellow for an NGO, and you get even a monthly stipend paid by the sponsors of ESMT, you know, to survive, to eat and to live, basically, but to get this one out of a lifetime experience. So some people make the choice to start applying at a later moment, you know, to postpone their job search, or they that also happened. They get a job, they sign a contract, but then they start in July next year.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah, and the sort of post MBA options, which the RLF is part of, there are a couple of other options as well, including internships, and there's also research assistant positions here at ESMT. So if whilst you're studying, you find a topic that you'd really like to delve into in a very academic manner after you graduate, then those options are available as well. We've had a couple of questions here that not quite on topic, but I can tidy up quite quickly. Does ESMT provide residential accommodation? We don't. It's up to you to find a place to live. Everybody on the program is an adult, so it's your choice where in Berlin you'd like to live. Although we do have a student services team who are more than happy to help get you settled into the city.
So maybe I can say something about it, because when you are an accepted student, we give you access to a platform where current students and new students, they interact, and many housing opportunities are advertised on that platform. So some apartments or rooms go from one student to another.
I suppose it's a 12-month cycle, and we just hand over the keys when you leave.
I hope someone cleans in the
And one other question about work experience. The minimum work experience for the MBA is 3 years. If you're coming straight from your undergraduate, then we have a dedicated Masters in Management program, which is designed specifically for students with not very much work experience. So you can find a little bit more information about that on the website. We have a comment here from an incoming student to this 2020 class, who says the student services team has helped find an apartment very easily. So that's very, very nice to hear. We'll pass that on.
I don't know what you paid, but no, but that's great. Yeah.
No, that's great news. We'll absolutely pass that on.
Yeah.
Great. So we are sort of coming to the end of our questions here. If anyone has any last minute questions that they'd like to ask, then please feel free to input them into the questions box on the right hand side of your screen. Was there anything extra that you two would like to cover?
No, I wanted to ask Nadia. No, I mean, you've been in the same situation. You were also maybe a year ago considering, shall I apply? You applied, you did. So, but do you have any suggestions for incoming students or for people who are maybe considering of doing this program?
If they have, like, they can reach out to us with questions. So what helped me immensely is that when I was considering coming to ESMT, is I was connected. I think it was the admission team that connected me to alumni from a field that is similar to mine, and they helped me to reach a decision because they were there when I had the questions and the doubts, and they really took a lot of time, both of them. That helped me. So reach out to us, ask us questions. I think we are all on the website. How can they reach us? Somehow?
No, but they can write. I mean, they can write us. They can write to admissions. We can always connect them to
people they want to speak to. So for me, it helped me because I was doubting going to an MBA after a PhD, and but no, there are other common students who did that.
Yeah, I said if you do come across any ESMT students or alumni on things like LinkedIn, then don't be afraid to reach out. People are usually very, very comfortable with sharing their experience. Yeah, and would you say overall it's been a positive experience for you, Nadia? Are you glad you made the decision?
Of course. I wouldn't be smiling and sitting here if it wasn't. It was a great journey. It still is, actually. It's not over. We don't want it to be over.
Yes.
We're pretty much panicking if it's over. No, it's been wonderful. It's been a really great journey. Yeah, it's been a great journey.
Well, thanks very much for saying that.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I mean, I haven't seen any new questions come through, so unless there was anything else that you two wanted to talk about.
No, people can always reach out.
Absolutely.
As simple as it is, we are very approachable. We don't bite, and happy to share any information.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can see our contact information on the screen here. If you would like to be put through to either of these two, then simply email the email address that you can see on the screen. We will be sending a recording of this this webinar out after the session, and so you can just reply to that as well if you would like to be put through to someone in particular. But that is it for now for us. Thanks very much for coming along, everybody, and thank you very much for you two for providing us with such wonderful insights. And yeah, as I said, we'll send through the recording afterwards. Thank you very much for coming, and goodbye.
Bye. Ciao.